Hunt, could you conduct roll call, please?
Thank you, Mr. Board, members of the County Council. Councilor Duncan.
Present.
Councilor Donahue.
Here.
Ward Emo.
Present.
Councilor Farr.
Present.
Councilor Gibson.
Yo.
Councilor Grunt.
Here.
Councilor Kingsbury.
Present.
Councilor Love.
Present.
Councilor McKay. Councilor Miller.
Here.
Councilor Murphy.
Here.
Councilor Peckett.
Present.
Councilor Reinwald.
Present.
Councilor Robinson. Councilor Stack.
Here.
Councilor Sweet.
Here.
Councilor Wisniewski-Moore.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Councilor Doncaster and then Councilor Kratz, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Yes, I'd like to declare an interest on the addendum to the development property report. As a member of my family, as an employee to help us on the area.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Kratz, please.
Yes, with the permission of the chair, I'd like to be in the room with the Finance and Admin report, but abstain from a vote on resolution FACC 1605-29 and FACC 1605-60. It concerns a member of my family.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Adoption of the minutes of April 28, 2016 that were on the website. Moved by Councilor Love, second by Councilor Stack. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? None, it's carried. Thank you, Councilor. As we gather in chambers this morning, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting today on traditional territory of the First Nations. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. We are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. Members of County Council, during the month of May, I attended 18 meetings on county business. On May 2nd, I attended the Eastern Ontario Regional Network Leadership Council Workforce Development and Deployment meeting in Kingston. On May 3rd, I continued taping the up-to-date segments with Cogeco. Topics of discussion include the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus update, CP Rail Trail acquisition, and the Highway 417 extension meetings held with federal members of Parliament, ministers, and staff. On May 6th, I attended the ribbon cutting of the new Family and Children's Services offices on Argyle Street in Renfrew. On May the 11th, I brought greetings on behalf of members of County Council to the students attending the Options 2016, which was held at Pembroke Memorial Center. 16 different skills competitions were available for students to attend. On May 13, I attended and brought greetings to the 4th Annual Early Childhood Education Day held at the Best Western. This conference was focused around reflective practices and documenting children's learning. The conference was free to attend and was open to all of Renfrew County's licensed child care providers that have agreements with our Child Care Services Division. A total of 204 attendees participated. On May 20, I participated in a radio interview with Heritage Radio regarding the devastating fire in Fort McMurray, Alberta. On May 24, I participated in a radio interview with CBC Ontario Morning regarding the Highway 17 extension. I will remind those assembled here of the following: the County of Renfrew, experience our history, share our future. This concludes my address for this session of County Council. And now, Mr. Hutton, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Prior to that, we've had to rejig the agenda just a little bit. And item number A is the Daffodil Cancer Society. Item B is the presentation to Robbie Dean Center. Item C is the addendum to the Finance and Admin and Development Property. Or I'm sorry, item C is Mr. Howard. Then, pardon me. Okay, let me back this up again. Item C, I've got black ink and blue ink here, I'm trying to read through. So item C becomes Mr. Keene of Forest, Ontario. Item D becomes Bruce Howard. So D is, I'm sorry, D, I'll just follow my arrows here properly. D is the report from F&A and the MP. Perfect. And then we go to Mr. Howard, and then the next is the 11:30 a.m. official signing. Okay, sorry about that. And then now Mr. Rodney.
Thank you very much. Members of County Council and guests at the back of the room, welcome to Renfrew County Council Chambers. During the year, staff does a number of fundraising events on behalf of charities throughout the County of Renfrew. We have 2 check presentations here today. As the board mentioned, the first one, or item A, will be the presentation to the Cancer Society. Daffodil Month, staff raise money by selling daffodils. And I'd ask that delegation to come forward for a check presentation. And we raised $477 for the Cancer Society. And you, if you want, maybe announce your name.
Hi, I'm Terry Maxmeyer. I'm the Volunteer Engagement Coordinator with the Canadian Cancer Society. Daffodil Month is my fundraiser, so I want to thank the County of Renfrew for all their great work that they did, and I am very pleased to collect this on behalf of the Canadian Cancer Society, and I hope next year we get to do this again, so thank you guys so much.
Big smiles.
I got the right side of the jacket.
You do.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Warden. The next presentation will be to the Robbie Dean Center, and we have a denim day Fridays, maybe once or twice a month. And I'll ask a representative from the Robbie Dean Center. Staff raised $475 to go towards the Robbie Dean Center.
Yes, please. I would like to say, first of all, my name is Monique. I'm the administrator of the Robbie Dean Family Counseling Center, but I'm also Robbie Dean's mother. And I need to thank each and every one of you because you have made Renfrew County a place where a person like me, who's just a regular mom, who's just a regular Renfrew County resident, be able to stand up and create something to make changes in our community that are actually saving a life, saving many lives. And I can't thank you enough for being the kind of people who make our Renfrew County such a wonderful place to be. With all my heart, thank you.
Right here, big smiles.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, yes, yeah. We're still working on the model development, so thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, Rose.
I'd like to call on Lacey Rose, please, to introduce our next presenter. Lacey.
Good morning. Rob Keane is here from Forest, Ontario. Rob Keane's here from Forest, Ontario to talk to us about the It Takes a Forest campaign. Rob's been the CEO of Forest, Ontario since 2014 when the merging of Trees Ontario with the Ontario Forestry Association happened. And prior to that, he'd been the CEO of Trees Ontario from 2011 to 2014. The mission of Forest Ontario is to be the voice of Ontario's forests by supporting forest restoration, stewardship, education, and awareness. Welcome, Rob.
This will move your presentation forward.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much, Lacey, for the introduction, and really it is an extreme pleasure to be here this morning to be able to address Council about an exciting new initiative called It Takes a Forest. And this initiative is essentially about promoting the awareness and the importance of our forestry sector to rural communities and to certainly urban communities. Before I start, just a little bit of background in my history. I spent 20 years actually living in Huntsville, and I was there as a forestry consultant, working in Algonquin Park and through forest management activities in the area, and as well working out at Pembroke, again working in the park and some of the management within this area as well. What I really found certainly in the Huntsville area was that there was a general knowledge, and I'm sure here as well, of what forestry is, the importance of forestry, and that is part of the fabric of the local community. When I started working more for Trees Ontario, now Forests Ontario, I moved down to Toronto and was frankly quite surprised at the response from people when I told them that I was a forester and I worked for a forestry organization. The general response was that we just shouldn't be cutting trees. And at that point in time, I realized that there was a task at hand to get the public in general having a better appreciation of what forestry is, and again, what its importance is to our local economy and to the Ontario economy. I actually was kind of interested. When I moved down, I've actually been working in Toronto now for about 10 years, and I had a discussion with His Worship in Huntsville yesterday, and I told him the story, and then we'd moved down from Huntsville 10 years ago, and his comment was, "Sorry for your bad luck." So. Anyway, as far as for Pembroke, I have my parents actually have been in Pembroke now for 40-some years, and so I've had the great pleasure of being over here, visiting, being part of what the fabric of Pembroke itself and the culture here. My father was a forester. He worked up at PNFI for a number of years, and my mother continued to reside here in Pembroke. Again, for 40 years, which I guess in Pembroke terms, or the Valley terms, is a relative newcomer. So, but certainly she has absolutely enjoyed everything about this particular area. One of the things that's obvious, and I certainly don't need to talk to you folks much about the culture. The importance of, certainly the importance of forestry and our forest industry in the area is extreme. We can talk about local employment and stuff, but I would say for Pembroke especially, for the Valley, it's far more than just employment. It's far more than just jobs for people. It is, in fact, part of the culture, the cultural fabric of this area. And certainly long history of industries here that have survived and prospered from the forestry sector. And I certainly think now of companies like Herdshaw and Sons, Murray Brothers, Laverne and Heidemann and Sons. I find it very interesting when you look at the names of companies within these areas, family-run businesses, now with some of them having seventh generation of taking care of our forests here in the Valley. And I find that absolutely inspirational that there is that culture that has been here for so long. And certainly you can see it everywhere, certainly in the murals, even downtown Pembroke, the log drives down the Ottawa River. My father was actually involved in 1984 when the Ottawa Valley was identified as Canada Forest Centre for that year. And it was really a great tribute. I know they did a lot of work there with the tall ships and such. So again, it is part of the fabric of this local area with our forestry sector. I'm a little bit constrained on time. I'm not going to read through these. Suffice it to say that our forestry sector provides an incredible number of jobs through Ontario. And certainly when we look at some of the economic drivers here in the Renfrew County area as well, very much a part of the fabric of this area. One of the things that I find that people have a lack of understanding, especially in the urban centers, is about our forest management planning practices. And I'd have to say, and I hope people realize this, that we have some of the best forest management practices in the world. And it starts with ensuring that we have healthy forests for our future. We then speak to a number of values, and I'm sure if anybody here has been involved with the forest management planning process, you recognize how many values are actually considered during a forest management plan. And certainly there's all sorts of values from wildlife to recreation to tourism to the biological waters, streams, all of those are considered during a forest management planning process. And at the end of it is more or less what is left and available to supply for wood supply. And so it is second to none, the processes that we go to. Before, I've actually been involved with the development of 6 forest management plans up in the Nipissing and Sudbury forests, and it takes about 2.5 years. The greatest part of this is the public consultation, where the public is invited to speak to and address those on the planning team, talk about their values and any concerns that they might have with the planning process. So it really is second to none. What is really startling to me is that we here in Ontario have a bit of a lack of knowledge on exactly how well we do manage our forests. However, outside of Ontario, it is well recognized, to cite a few organizations that have actually done studies on our forest management planning practices. And so it's in a way frustrating that we as Ontarians do not tell other Ontarians how well we do manage our forests and how important they are to us. With certification, I'm sure a lot of you might be familiar with certification. If you look at this particular bar graph, we have 161 million hectares of forest that are certified right across Canada. The next is the US with 45 million. That's about 46% of the world's forests are Canadian forests that are certified. So it really is exemplary, and another example of how well we manage our forests. The challenge. This is the challenge. In my trip to Toronto, and now I live and work in Toronto, is the fact that we have so much of our population now going to urban centers, so much of our population moving away from rural centers. And unfortunately, there continues to be a disconnect of the knowledge, the importance of our rural communities in the urban centers. And so this never became more apparent, as I said at the beginning of my presentation, as when I started talking to people down in Toronto about what they knew about forestry, about how important forests were. And so there's a challenge. There was a poll done a couple of years ago asking Ontarians what their impression was of forestry in Ontario. 62% were either unaware or didn't have an opinion or just simply did not know about forestry in Ontario. That's startling for such an important industry in our province. Unfortunately, what this can lead to is when policies are being developed, it can, because that information is not there, because that understanding is not there, it can potentially lead to policies that are not, say, necessarily in favor or don't have all the information to provide good decisions on how those policies are developed. As well, and as I said, with this migration of rural to urban, we see a lot of our youth heading into urban centers as well. This is causing an incredible challenge to the forestry sector to find and look and get employment for the businesses in the rural areas in our youth. And I see this all the time. Lacey and I were talking about this morning, that it really is a challenge for the forestry sector to attract young people to work in rural areas. And why? I think there's a certain amount of pizzazz to being in the city, but I think if you talk to people, ask people about what a forester does, they won't know, or it may not have a positive response, is what their actual impression is of a forester. But there's hope. There is hope. And certainly, recently, there's been more and more focus on the term of sustainably managed forests and how it can address and mitigate climate change. This is huge, and this is a panel, this is actually a quote taken in 2007, the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change. And these folks are endorsing this, that it's sustainable forest management that is a solution to the future. I was actually down in Lima about a month ago now, and at that Congress, there was 1,200 delegates. And at the end of the 4 days of workshops and such, in front of 1,200 delegates, one of the participants there made this comment. He said, sustainably managed forests are key to our future. So this isn't about protecting forests. This is recognizing that it's sustainably managed forests that are going to be the key. And certainly when you hear about that type of thing, you go, there's hope, because people are starting to recognize how important it is to actually manage the forest, not just talk about protection. And now, of course, with climate change and carbon, everybody gets climate change, everybody understands about CO2, and the best news is now that from previous, when people would talk about forests as being a carbon sink, mature forest is essentially carbon neutral. You know, once it hits maturity, the trees will grow, but then they fall down, release carbon again, and so the cycle continues. Now it's being more and more recognized that actually healthy forests, sustainably managed healthy forests, are sequestering carbon, including the fact that now when you harvest those trees, that carbon that's in the trees gets locked up in wood products even longer. So this is a message that resonates with the public. It resonates downtown Toronto in the urban centers because people down there, they understand climate change. They've seen it, they've witnessed it. They have ice storms, they have floods, they have insects, all of those things associated with climate change. And so when you can now tie well sustainably managed forests to climate change and the fact that if we do more sustainably managed forests, better sustainably managed forests, that will help to mitigate and adapt to climate change. So where we saw this challenge of 62% of people not understanding about forestry, we see that as an opportunity now, where we can go out and talk and bring these people and provide a balanced perspective of information about forestry and how important it is and how well we do it here in Ontario. And so that's all well and good. And you might say, well, how are things going to progress now? And it was really amazing that just last fall, there was a group of forest industry folks here in the valley that got together, and you may have heard of some signs around the park talking about unsustainable forest management and such, but regardless, those folks got together, these signs became available, and it was identified that there was a real incredible opportunity there to put up some proactive messaging about forestry. Something that on a large scale hasn't been done in a large way, but has been done. And so we started off with a relatively small group of forest industry folks. Quickly, those folks contacted the associations that are up here, the Algonquin Forestry Authority, the County of Renfrew, and it was made up of the Central Ontario Forest Industry folks, us, Canadian Institute of Forestry, and the Ontario Professional Foresters Association, to work as a collaboration to come up with some proactive messaging that we could use for these billboards. And so you may have seen these already. They are up, but these are the billboards that we came up with. And I'll just quickly go through them. It addresses the social, economic, and environmental components of sustainability. This one is going to resonate downtown Toronto big time because, again, people get climate change. They get the CO2 aspect of it, and what we're doing now is tying that to sustainably managed forests. So our forests, your forest, and how well they're managed are part of the solution now of climate change. This one's just outside the Algonquin Park, just before the 35 exit going south, and we've had some good positive responses to this already. And here they are, folks, they're up. This is happening. We had an incredible partnership and an incredible collaboration with all of those groups to put these signs up. Some of the local industry donated wood. We had, those are actually a couple of my staff up in the top right that were out putting these signs up with help from other folks. So these are up. Actually, when these guys were out there, Scott and Steph, some of the logging trucks in the area were going by, and they were just leaning on their horn. They said, this is awesome. You know, just give it big thumbs up. We got some good proactive messaging going on here. These are the locations of the signs. The exposure, 5 million vehicles per year will be driving by those signs. And the best part is we now have it linked to a website. So we can measure. So the hope is people see the sign, they go to the website, they look up further information, get some good background information. Just balanced perspective about forestry in Ontario. And the best news is we can measure this. We know how many people are going to that website and how deep they're going to the website. And we can link other programs to this so people can start digging as far as they want and learning more and more about forestry here in Ontario. We have had the great pleasure at Forests Ontario to have worked with the County of Renfrew for many years in promoting forestry. And I want to thank all of you folks for your support of the past. Lacey has been just absolutely amazing to work with over here in the county. We've had a couple of programs, one of them called Forestry Connects, where we've actually taken kids from the city, and we did this a couple of years in Algonquin Park, and we showed them actual operations in the park, right soup to nuts, from marking trees to harvesting, out to the mill, McRae's Mill, and then the products at the end. The kids were in awe, and we've got a video here that we took of the kids if you ever get a chance to look at it. Just in awe of what they were seeing. They were inspired. They said they had no idea this is what forestry was about, and a number of them said, I think I'll pursue a career in forestry. Perfect. 30 to 40 kids per year. You might think, yeah, that's not so many. But we have now social media. So those kids, they tweet out, or Twitter out, whatever it is, out to all their friends. They Facebook to all their friends. It's incredible the reach that these kids have now because of social media. And now Renfrew has actually done this second year running, where they've done basically the same thing. So we're collaborating, we're working together to push this message out, to get these kids involved and understanding more about forestry. So again, thank you, County of Renfrew, your support of that. We've actually had a bit more of a history with County of Renfrew, and I don't know if you folks remember the Forest 2020 program. Started in 2004-05. And County of Renfrew was our local agency that we dealt with here to be the local partner. Greatly successful program. So again, thank you for that. It's been a great partnership. This is all led to, so this is great. We've got these signs up, good start, the whole thing. This has now led to a provincial strategy that we're working on. We're working with a lot, continue to work with the County of Renfrew and the local forest industry here and all the other partners we mentioned, as well as forest industry right across Ontario, and as well as municipalities. I had presentations that I gave up to Thunder Bay and Timmins, to the NOMA, Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association, and the Northeastern Ontario Municipal Association about this initiative. They get it. They understand that we can no longer pound our fists on the table to try to get the attention of downtown. We have to start reaching out. We have to start delivering proactive messaging about how our forests work, and those folks are sitting at the table to develop this strategy on how we're going to do that. So this has gone provincial, and it really is, and I have to commend, again, Renfrew County, the County of Renfrew, and the folks in this county for initiating it. This would never have happened had we not gotten that group of people together to start this process, to bring the other groups together, to work collaboratively to get to this point. And we're hoping we're going to be meeting again, actually Thursday, tomorrow, oh my gosh, to talk about the strategy and how we're going to move it forward. So it really is exciting. Again, proactive. It's all about proactive messaging that I know Renfrew's been doing for so long through Lacey's programs. Final messages, and I think this is really a message that I hope you take away. We have the best managed forests in the world here in Ontario. Certainly the culture of the Ottawa Valley is second to none as far as families go, as far as the culture, the history, all tied to forestry here in Ontario. The fact that we can talk about healthy forests, and it's going to sustain healthy society and healthy economics for the province, and certainly tying it all to climate change. It's a huge opportunity right now. It's just everywhere. People are talking about climate change. So I ask for your support. If you have a Twitter account, if you could follow us, tweet as you will on the It Takes a Forest, follow it. We've had some incredible responses, and certainly sign up and follow what we're doing. The Twitter account that we have, just a quick message, we've had people in BC that have picked up some of these signs, and they say, this is awesome, we have to do some of the same thing. We've had people in the UK that have picked up these signs, and they say, what a great idea. You guys are leading the charge on promoting sustainable forestry. So it really is. It's new. We're excited about it. We appreciate your support. We appreciate the valleys, the Ottawa Valley's initiation of this whole thing, because it really did start here. And my coordinates, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask for questions in a moment. Just some really quick numbers for Renfrew County that you need to be aware of. In 2015, we became aware and are confident that 2,836 direct and indirect jobs are available, are presently being worked in Renfrew County. It's a 1.7% increase from 2014. That contributes approximately $120 million in salaries. The total estimated economic impact is over $510 million. And over, as you know, over 70% of Renfrew County is forested. I should also note we benefit from our proximity to Algonquin Park. There's a lot of forestry being undertaken in there, and I say a lot. It's not that much. 1%, a little over 1% this year, a little under 1% last year, so it hovers around 1%. 1% of the land mass of Algonquin Park is forested every year. And it's one of the best managed programs, and it's won numerous international awards. And it shows that recreation, tourism, forestry can get along and can be sustainable in the same footprint. And so we should be very proud of that as well. So with that, I'll take questions and comments, and I'll start with Mayor or Councillor Yansky, please.
Thank you very much. A great presentation. I'm glad to hear that the Renfrew County was at the start and a big developer in what you're proposing and what you've done. As you know, my family has been in the logging business my father started it 70 years ago, and he's long gone, but my brothers have taken over. And sustainable forestry is what it's all about. We need to get that message. We've constantly been, trying to tell the rest of Ontario and the world that we are strong in sustainable forestry, and the management of those forests are so well done. And Algonquin Park is a great example. We're known worldwide for the practices that we have there. So I want to congratulate you on a your presentation, I know all that stuff because I grew up with that stuff, but it's good to see that you're putting it forward, you're telling the people, and that we're starting to make the people of the big cities understand that we're not all about cutting trees. It's a lot more. And I sat on a committee in Toronto, and the gentleman had a gavel in his hand, and it was made out of wood, and he was yelling at me saying, "How dare you cut forests?" And I said, "What do you think you're holding in your hand?" Like, they just do not sometimes get that through their brain. He's looking at it thinking, I guess I don't know where that came from, but it comes from a tree, sir, and that's, so it's wonderful of what you're doing, and I want to congratulate you. And to Lacey, well done, Lacey, a really good job, and to Paul Morrow, his committee for his leadership in the project. The other question I have, Mr. Warden, those comments. The question is, could we have a copy of the presentation and the facts that you've given? I think it's so important that those facts be taken. I'd like to take that to my community to show people how many jobs it relates, how much money. People need to know that. And thank you again, Rob, well done, and to Lacey, well done. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Yes, the information will be forwarded. Councillor Dixon and then Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Warden. To you, Mr. Dean. My father spent his whole life in the forest industry, and he was a very active member of the Forest Accidents Prevention Association. And in the early 1970s, Margaret Atwood happened to be canoeing on Lady Evelyn Lake and heard the sound of a chainsaw. My father said she went back to Toronto and set the forestry industry back 25 years. So I'm really heartened to see that you've recognized exactly where the problem is and are taking steps to solve that problem. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Can I make a comment to that? Yeah, it is amazing, actually. I sat on the AFA board for a number of years and was chair for it for a few years. And the number of users that go through the park is incredible. Millions, I think it's 1 million per year. And while I was sitting on the board, I think there was one letter that we got, and somebody heard something, and they weren't even sure what it was, but one letter. And I think it's just an incredible example of multiple use forestry. The fact, as Warden mentioned, the fact that all this recreation can go on, and Algonquin Park is still deemed in some regards as a wilderness park. People go for a wilderness experience. So it is an incredible example of how all of those things, as Warden has talked about already, all of those things can happen on the same landscape.
Thank you. Councillor Duncan?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Thank you very much, Mr. Keane, for a fantastic presentation. And I think I've always said that there's a tremendous facility that we have here in Renfrew County out of Shaw Woods that is doing great effort in promoting awareness of the importance of sustainable forestry. So along with that, I think educating the public is paramount in preserving and sustaining our industry here in Renfrew County. I'm wondering though, on a larger level, what sort of traction may be getting with respect to what I consider incredibly ill-informed comments by the then Environment Commissioner of Ontario, Gordon Miller, in October 2014, that was essentially calling for an end to forestry in Algonquin Park. And I think when you have someone of that stature that is an office of the Legislature of Ontario making that sort of damaging and ill-informed and misinformed and uninformed comments on the industry, what sort of inroads are being made in terms of the strategy that you've adopted?
So, and as you indicated, Mr. Miller is no longer in the seat. Diane Saxon now is in that role of ECO, and we have a request to meet with her as soon as possible just to talk about forestry in Ontario and to provide some insight on how it works and you know, the good practices that we have. The other part of that, and kind of the essence of this whole initiative, is to get information out to the public, get that balanced perspective out to them. So when they read something that's slightly off, like perhaps what Mr. Miller had written previously, they're going to at least have some background information as to how things work. You know, the forest management planning process, the fact that we're so well recognized, the fact that we've got so many certified forests here in Ontario and in fact Canada, that the public is going to have that information available to them. I'll give you, just if I have 1 second just to give you a bit of a background, it was kind of the aha moment for me, quite frankly, and really inspired me to get moving with getting out in front of people and talking about what we do. It was actually, it had to do with the signs around Algonquin Park. And the proponent of those signs was at a leaseholder meeting, talking to leaseholders, talking about some of his issues with regards to what he was dealing with within the park. And some of it was related to forest management of the park. And so I was listening to it and I thought, yeah, okay. And typical foresters, I think most of the time we sit back and don't say anything. I thought, no, this is time you need to say something. So I got up, question period, question times, and I just gave, there was about 50 or 60 people there, I just gave a perspective of how forest management planning works. And I talked to the certifications that Algonquin Park has received, that the AFA has received for their excellent forest management practices that they've been practicing ever since 1975. And you know, it was one of those things at the end of it, and it was just balanced information. I wasn't, you know, going to the far side of anything. And at the end of it, I had so many people that came up to me and said, really appreciate that, didn't know how that all worked, and now I've got a better perspective of forest management, certainly here in Algonquin Park. And it was one of those, I said, yeah, it's just, we just have to start telling our story. And we should be proud of what we do. We shouldn't be afraid to get up and when you hear something that's slightly off to say, no, I'll give you the facts. You know, and I think that's where we really have to be with all of this and not be adversarial with it, but just keep giving out some proactive messaging.
If I can add specifically to your question, and Chair Sweet and then Councillor Stack. Shortly after Commissioner Miller made those remarks, we prepared a document and staff, I believe, spoke directly to him at a conference here in Eastern Ontario, and then we then spoke with Minister Morrill about it. We talked about Algonquin Park and the fact that it's, you know, the 1%, and actually talked about the quantity that was approved. There was only about 3/4 of that wood basket that was approved that was being utilized at this point, and explained the rationale, the reasons for that. And the reasons are many, some to do with the Endangered Species Act, some to do with terrain, but we did talk about that and then regeneration efforts. At the same time, MPP Yakubuski stood up in the House and spoke directly to the minister, and then he went on the record not so much refuting Commissioner Miller's remarks, but turning them aside and suggesting that they would not be part of government policy on a move forward basis. And to the minister's credit, he hasn't brought those into policy, nor has he added to those comments. And again, I know that John is in the process, as Ron said, trying to meet with the new commissioner as well to bring some more information. So that's what occurred right away and in the longer term. Chair Sweet, please.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the presentation. And I share some of your concern with regards to getting the message out, particularly that tall structure you saw down in Toronto. I recall when there was a move to try and reduce the footprint in Algonquin Park. Really and truthfully, Algonquin Park is the park it is because of logging and the conservation type attitude that the loggers have with regard to that. We pushed very hard, pushed back on this reduction of the footprint, very, very hard. And in fact, we had in these chambers the president, I believe, of Parks Canada or Parks Ontario here talking about the need because of all of the complaints that were coming in from the people who were visiting the park and pushed, and we really had to push to find what these complaints were. There was over 1 million visitors a year coming into Algonquin Park, and we pushed to find out how many complaints were directly related to logging. It was hard for him to answer the question, and you can understand when I tell you what the answer is, why he didn't want to say anything. Pushed and pushed and pushed to find out, and that particular year there was 10 complaints lobbied out of 1 million visitors coming into Algonquin Park, which is hardly a problem. And so I sympathize with your problem of trying to get that message down to Southern Ontario, to the urban environment. It's a difficult challenge, but congratulations on the work that you and your whole team are doing to safeguard the logging industry. As you've heard, the volume and the dollars and economic opportunities here as far as logging is concerned is exceptional. It's one of the pillars of economic development in Renfrew County. So I appreciate what you're doing for those who are in that logging industry.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Again, great presentation. Appreciate it very much, and I will appreciate getting those stats and a copy of it to share locally. I just couldn't help but think, and the years I've been around here, we've heard lots of conversation on this and about educating people in the larger metropolitan areas about it. And I'm going to tell you, I'm from Renfrew, which is the eastern gateway to the county and next door to Ottawa. We've had a lot of influx from the city into the town. I guess what I'm trying to suggest, there may be some advantage to some local education as well too. Renfrew was, established by McLaughlin's, and its whole beginning in history is in the logging industry, the forestry industry, and the Gillies family had been there for years. My grandfather was, I believe, what they called the team master for Mill Number 3 for the McLaughlin's, which is now the Quality Inn and Eastside Mario's in Renfrew. And we have a picture at home of him with a team of horses and slabwood in the mud streets. Because of his position, he was allowed to bring slabwood home for firewood back in those days, I guess. And and I often think about it in Renfrew, there's never much discussion about the forestry industry and history that it pertains to the town. So I think there's some value in suggesting, even in local communities in Renfrew County, there could be some work done that would bring some value with it.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we're looking at with this larger strategy is how we can start to pool the resources that we've individually developed around education. And certainly, it was actually Lacey that made this suggestion when we had our first strategy meetings on March 30th. And it was saying, well, let's not try to create anything new. Let's find out what we've all got. And if we can take those products and tweak them slightly so that we can then distribute them to other centers, that they can use those products, like the Forestry Connects program. Lacey's and company has done a fantastic job of taking that model and tweaking it to work in Renfrew. And so let's put that and make it so it's available right across Ontario. And so there's all sorts of forestry folks out there that want to do this, they just don't have the tools. So if we can make that available to them and then educate that local group, and certainly the local kids, the youth. It's astounding to me. When I sat on the board, one of my board members was from Wilno, and he was a cut and skid operator. And his child came home one day, And he said, Dad, we shouldn't be cutting trees, it's a bad thing. And this is a will know. And you go, how can it is coming from the teacher. How can this happen? That this is what the teacher is, influencing the kids on what they believe about forestry in Ontario. And it is unfortunately somewhat prevalent in rural centers as much as urban centers. So creating those types of tools that we can push it out there. The one I didn't speak to was the Forestry in the Classroom. And that's a program that we develop simple presentations for multiple classroom grades that we can send out and distribute. We actually do it right across Canada, that a local forestry person can get invited by a teacher to come in and talk to the kids about forestry and how it really works. And so simple tools like that we can start to develop and share, I think is going to, in part, address what you're speaking to. But it's not one thing's going to be the magic bullet. This is when we're talking about this strategy, it's a long-term sustained effort, at least 10 years that we have to do that. The far left environmental groups, that have potentially put some misinformation out there, they're brilliant at it. They've been doing this for 20 years. And so, but we have to it's just proactive messaging. Just keep pushing the message out to folks in a strategic way.
Thank you, and I think to sum it up, what we realize slowly, I think, is that this is not a one-off effort. It has to be continuous because the messaging that's negative to our way of life is continuous, and it may change faces or change from one group to the other. Or they seem to it's almost like a relay race, but each take up the baton and take a swing with it, turn it into a bat, and keep beating away and then pass it on. So I think you're right. It has to be something that's ongoing, and it has to be continuous, and further we have to take it into our homes and to our neighborhoods. So thank you for that. And Rose, if you could just put up their Twitter page contact, and we have a little something for you. And if I could have Lacey and Mr. Hutton and Chair Sweet join me, please.
Hey?
What we signify that. Thank you. To signify the closeness of our relationship and the importance of the messaging, we're presenting the Force Ontario some of our county Renfrew hats to wear while they're out in public, especially when you're putting up even more signs for your guys and for yourself. Thank you very much. Everybody. Thank you, and again, I should make mention of the excellent support that we receive in our efforts from our department through Mr. Morrow and specifically through Lacey. Any number of events in a year that I've gone to concerning forestry, she's always there, always the expert in the room that I turn to, and more the industry. I know that on two occasions when I make presentations to ministers with industry representation, Lacey has been the voice that they've all turned to confirm information, and I can tell you that in one instance, Mr. Morrow turned to her and asked her a direct question, bypassing his staff and those of us who were speaking to ensure that he got accurate information, because she spoke with such authority on the management plan for Algonquin Park. And two other questions, he deliberately turned to her and ignored the rest of us. So that speaks volumes of her authority. So thank you for that. And now, Chair Sweet, if you could give us the addendum report, please.
Yes, thank you. Members of County Council, we, your Development and Property Committee and Finance and Administration Committee, wish to report and recommend as follows. Under bylaws, a memorandum of understanding. Mr. Warden, would you like me to give you a little bit of background on this? Read that or just
Yes,
give a bit
please.
of background? On April the 5th, 2016, Warden Peter Eamon, Councillor Tom Peckett, and staff met with the Algonquins of Pequotnagan First Nation to discuss future economic development opportunities, including the extension of Highway 417. That meeting has resulted in the development of a tabled memorandum of understanding to create a framework where the parties will work together to encourage infrastructure development, economic development, and training opportunities, business opportunities, and skills development. Also tabled is a copy of a letter provided to Chief Kirby Whiteduck along with the memorandum of understanding. So there's resolution number DP and FACC 160501. Moved by the chair, second by committee, that County Council pass a bylaw to execute a memorandum of understanding between the County of Renfrew and the Algonquins of Pequotnagan First Nation on shared economic development opportunities and projects of mutual interest. All of which is respectfully submitted by myself as chair and Jennifer Murphy, chair, and committee members Doncaster, Eamon, Gibson, McKay, Miller, Peckett, Donahue, Love, Reinwald, and Wisniewski.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Discussion? I'd like to inform those of you that were in the meeting this morning and our friends in the gallery and the press. This has been an initiative that was undertaken with some planning and a great deal of effort. Chief Whiteduck and his council, when we met with them to talk about economic development opportunities and the extension of Highway 417, were enthusiastic about doing it and wanted to undertake a broader relationship with us. They didn't want it to be bound by specific covenants, but rather to explore the opportunities. We had been speaking with Chief Whiteduck for some time about it, and through his leadership and the excellent work of his staff, and then also our staff with Mr. Morrow and Mr. Hutton, came up with this vehicle to work together in the future. As you no doubt are aware, our communities have coexisted for 150 odd years. We've had great friendship and cooperation from the Pequotnagan First Nation, and it will continue into the future. We recognize that they are valued members of our larger community, and they wanted to discuss on a move forward basis opportunities to benefit both of our communities. And we're very fortunate that they extended this opportunity to us. And I think they're equally as excited, and you're going to hear a little more about that from Chief Whiteduck as we meet later on today. Are there any questions or comments? With that, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. And now I need to pass a bylaw, so I'll read the motion and ask for a mover. That the bylaw listed on item 11 and attached here to a Schedule A on the County Council agenda dated May 25th to enter into a memorandum of understanding between the Algonquins of Pequotnagan First Nation and the County of Renfrew on shared economic development opportunities and projects of mutual interest be deemed read 3 times and passed. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Gibson, second Councillor Murphy. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None. It's carried. Thank you. Thank you very much, Council. And now, Mr. Morrow, do you want to introduce Mr. Howard, please?
Thank you, Warden, through you to County Council. Bruce is here to give a presentation and an overview and seek approval to move forward with the Renfrew County Trail Strategy. This document has been in the works for some time. If you recall, last August when we were in the town of Petawawa, Bruce did a presentation at that time that presented the draft Since that time, we have been out to a number of partners and out to our local municipalities to provide them with that draft and receive their comments. So we're now back here to you today with the final draft of that document. And in fact, that document is very timely with the County Council's approval of the asset donation agreement. That document will be meshed with this document. Ultimately, this document will serve as an umbrella document guiding us for where we go with trails for the next 5 to 10 years in Renfrew County. So without taking too much away from Bruce, Bruce, it's all yours. And again, as Bruce makes his way up here, Bruce is our senior planner. And so a little bit outside of Bruce's day-to-day business providing planning support, Bruce did voluntold to take this project on about a year ago and has done a great job drafting this document. So kudos to Bruce. Did an amazing job pulling this all together and helping us through the process. So thank you, Bruce, and take it away.
Thank you, Warden, members of the County Council. So this is, I think, the fourth time some of you might have heard this presentation. So I'll try to be brief for some of the slides. I'll go through some of it quickly and just highlight some of the key changes that have been made since last August. The recommendation today is that County Council approve the County of Renfrew Trail Strategy as presented. So the first couple of slides, which I will go through quickly, the trail strategy looks at the benefits of the trails and what having trails in Renfrew County can do for us. So there's improved health benefits, it can improve our economies, helps create strong communities, and also helps with healthy environments. The strategy also looks at how trails as a whole fit within the County of Renfrew strategic plan. It takes a look at how everything works together and as to the goal of the county working in the future. This slide tries to illustrate the whole concept of the trail strategy. So there's two main components that the strategy looks at. The first one is at County of Renfrew assets and what we have that can be used for trails. So within the County of Renfrew, we have county forests, we have county roads, and abandoned rail corridors that can all be utilized for trail systems. And as Paul mentioned, with the recently acquired CP the corridor that can be used as trail. The strategy looks at that as and calls it the potential backbone to a trail system or a trail network within the county. So the strategy itself doesn't specifically look at CP and plans for it in the future, but looks at incorporating it. How will that potentially work with the rest of the County of Renfrew assets? So it looks at what we have and then tries to encourages finding linkages. How are these things going to work together? Looking at our county roads, whether it's going to be for paved or hardened shoulders, for active transportation purposes. Looking at our county forests, we have informal trails located on most of the county forests. I think we have 16,000 acres of county forest within that are under our operations, and looking at how we can best utilize those lands for public trail purposes without impacting any of the management practices that go on with regards to forestry. The second component of the trail strategy is looking at the rest of the trails within the county. So every local municipality has trails located in their lands. Even in our urban areas, we have, the town of Arnprior and town of Petawawa and Renfrew have great trail systems within their urban areas. Our rural municipalities have trails, snowmobile clubs maintain trails, and we have a lot of crown land that have trails located on them as well. So the strategy looks at also identifying where there's local trails, how can they be tied into the network, and looking for opportunities to create an overall linked system. So since August 2015, that was the last time I made the presentation to Petawawa. What we did was we took that draft trail strategy and we circulated it to a variety of stakeholders for feedback. We circulated to local municipalities, the local County of Renfrew District Health Unit, the Physical Activities Network, the Renfrew County Ontario Trails Council, the Lanark County Municipal Trails Corporation, Ontario Trail Council, and the Ontario Highlands Tourism Organization. Some of the highlights of the changes that have been made since that August version. Number one that Paul mentioned was the CP corridor acquisition. In April of 2016, so just last month, the County of Renfrew, in partnership with Lanark County and Papineau Cameron, we entered into an agreement to purchase that corridor. The second one change that was recommended was that the KMP Management Advisory Committee not be changed. So the KMP is an already existing trail that's on an abandoned corridor that runs from Renfrew down through Calabogie. That is already in the county ownership, and that we maintain a trail on that. And there's a KMP Management Committee that already looks after the management of that existing committee. So we're recommending that that structure not be changed. The third one is that a CP Management Advisory Committee be created, and this committee would have the mandate to promote and manage the CP trail. And the last one is a partnership agreement, and this was part of the co-owners agreement that was entered into with Papineau Cameron and Lanark County with regards to setting up an agreement to operate and manage the CP corridor. So the recommendations, the first one, again, is new. It's that the KMP Management Advisory, the current structure not be changed. So we have an existing KMP management corridor that we have, that management plan, and this plan, there's no changes being proposed, and that the status quo will be maintained for the future. The second recommendation, this involves the CP corridor, and this one we'll go over several slides because there's a lot of information being into it. So the first recommendation is that a striking committee establish an ad hoc committee that would report to the DMP committee, and that this committee could consist of county council members and or local municipal council members and or members of the public. And that terms of reference would have to be established for this new ad hoc committee, and that the suggested name for this committee be the KMP Management Advisory Committee. Or sorry, the CP, I apologize, thank you. Number two continued is that this new Trail Management Committee, that the Management Advisory Committee be given a mandate to promote and manage the CP corridor, and that the CP Management Advisory Committee undertake a public consultation process and to make recommendations to the County Development and Property Committee regarding the most appropriate uses of that corridor. Again, number two continued is that the Forestry and Trails Technician be responsible for providing the administrative support to the CP Advisory Committee, and that the CP Management Advisory Committee work towards the creation of a Trails Master Plan, very similar to the existing KMP Management Plan. That involved with that would be a long-range budget be prepared, and that all the trail corridor and the infrastructure that the county is acquiring, that be included into our asset management plan. I think this is the last one on number two, that and this relates to the co-owners committee, and that at least one and not more than 3 members of this proposed CP Management Advisory Committee be sit as representatives onto the co-owners committee between the County of Lanark and Papineau Cameron, and that these committee members are to work together to the extent reasonable to achieve a consistent standard of construction, repair, maintenance, and use along the CP trail, and coordinate the use and operation of it. And that's wording taken right from the co-owners agreement. Recommendation number 3 is that the County of Renfrew support the creation of a Trails Association. So this is looking at the rest of the trails within the county, not ones that are specifically owned or are county assets. And this is not a new concept. This is a concept that was developed in 2007. In 2007, the county had a draft trail strategy that was prepared by Stantec. It was prepared, but was never approved or adopted by county council. So this is a concept that we've brought forward again, and that the County of Renfrew support the creation of this association. This association would be just recommend consisting of volunteers and stakeholders, and this not be a committee of council. Again, it's recommended that the Forestry and Trails Technician be able to provide support to this association. And the purpose of this association is to collaborate with municipalities and stakeholders on a variety of trails issues such as linkages, trailheads, and the promotion and maintenance of trails within the county. The Economic Development Division could also provide support to this association and develop a tourism-related brand. And another suggestion is that this association be responsible for contacting the Trans-Canada Trail Organization, looking at if we could potentially establish an Ontario loop using the CP corridor as one of the key links through that, through the county. Recommendation 4 is that the Forestry and GIS Division complete a trail inventory. So we have a lot of trails throughout the county. Local municipalities have data. Snowmobile clubs have data. There's local clubs as well that have data, and so it's a job to try to compile all this information as possible into one location and use that to assist us in moving forward on A-Link trails for the county. Number 5 is that the land use policies be it to integrate trail considerations into development review, be included into the 5-year update of the county official plan. Recommendation number 6 is that the Forestry and GIS Division continue to review trails on county forest lands on a site-by-site basis and also through the review of forest management plans. And number 7 is that the county continue to facilitate discussions with local municipalities in the CN Rail. This is the second last slide. This just sort of is to illustrate how the proposed committee structure would work. I know it's not all encompassing for all of our committees and departments in the county, but at the top you have county council, and then on the far left side, various committees of county council. And then following the arrows to the right, so under DMP committee, there are various other divisions, such another committee such as the Land Division Committee, the Agricultural Committee, and the KMP Management Advisory Committee. And so it's recommended that the CP Management Advisory Committee follow that same structure. So the striking committee would be required to appoint members to that CP Management Committee. It would be up to County Council to approve the terms of reference and the work plan of that committee. And you'll see at the top right in the circle, there's a Trails Association. And so this is separate. It's not a committee of County Council, and that would be made up of volunteers and stakeholders, but with the support of the Forestry and Trails Technician. And so I'll just conclude with, again, the recommendation that the County Council approve the County of Renfrew Trail Strategy as presented. Thank you, Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Howarth. And questions, comments, Councillor Wisniewski-Moore, and then Councillor Murphy.
I was just scratching my head.
Sorry.
I wasn't. I have a question. Bruce, a wonderful presentation, and I agree with everything. It's such an advantage for economic development in the county of Renfrew. The only thing I'm taking a little bit objection to is in reading the executive summary. I'm a big supporter of ATVing. And you know, it's so good, this new toy that people now have. The province have now passed regulation that allows a little more flexibility, like Quebec, so that we have a lot more people going to be using our trails because the bikes will be legal now. And there's no mention of that. And so as you're going, I was reading through everything, it says, you know, walking, hiking, snowmobiling, no ATVing. And I'm sure the public would like to know that the ATVs are allowed on these trails, and I think it's a big proponent of what should be marked there. So I guess my nose is a little out of joint about that. That's the only thing, because I think it's a wonderful document. But I wondered if the committee talked about that. Is there a reason that it's purposely out of there? And then I would like to know why. And otherwise, I'd like to have that included, because the public truly are. This is a new age now that ATVing is becoming so much more popular, especially with the province moving forward with new legislation allowing those bikes on the side of roads and trails. So my question is, can it be included? And if it's not, and there's a reason, I'd like to know why. Thank you.
Thank you, Ward. ATVing is absolutely a critical component, and it's probably just an oversight that wasn't in the executive summary. It is in the rest of the trail strategy dealing with ATVing, so it is a recognized component of trails. Whether or not which trails can restrict uses of motorized, that's something, this is a very high level document, but absolutely ATVing is a critical component, and I know they're permitted on county forest properties and on a lot of crown land, so it is a critical component and oversight probably for the executive summary, and something that I think can be added to it.
I'd sure appreciate that, because the public most often just look at that executive summary, as I did. And so if the committee and you know, county council sees some merit in it, I sure would like it included in there, because I think the public needs to know, and they will be looking at that and wondering. So just a point.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, and then Stack, and then Dominic, please.
Let me just not talk specifically of the CP rail, and let's clear something up right at the very beginning. It has always been and will continue to be the vision of the CP rail, that this be a multi-purpose four-season trail. How that will all unfold will be through a series of consultations that are currently going on at this time, whereby we're visiting all of the municipalities along the line and to all of municipalities who are perhaps not on the line to give them an update of where we are. But then there will be a work plan created for consultation from the stakeholders along the line, and yes, ATVs, snowmobiles will be included. It is a trail for everyone as much as we can possibly make it. As you can appreciate, there are some things that are compatible and some that are not. However, that will be the challenge of the group going forward, to find what and where we can accommodate all of the needs of individuals along that trail. And that is the vision, always has been, and will be continuing in that particular vein going forward as we continue the process. Unfortunately, Janice, the ATVs were missed. It was an oversight, not intentional. But certainly ATVs will be part of it. How we can blend them into snowshoeing or cross-country skiing or whatever will be the challenge going forward. But we will find a challenge is just, let me just say, a challenge is just an opportunity that hasn't been solved yet. And we will continue to find ways and means to make it as approachable for everyone within the county of Renfrew.
Thank you. I just want that, I needed that reassurance because it blindly is missing, and I apologize, but to me, because I am such a pro activist as far as ATVing, that it just struck me that it wasn't, because you've got everything else marked except ATV. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Stack, then Donahue, and then Murphy, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Janice. I picked up on the same thing because I'm involved as well too, and there are more and more clubs being formed, and the reality is locally we did a little pretty rough, crude kind of analysis, but there's also a little older age group in the ATVing than there is in the snowmobiling and stuff like that. So I gotta be careful how I say that, but I'll say that sometimes behaviors are different, you know, due to age. We all grow a little bit as we get older. But the other thing too, and I remember chairing operations for years and going through the active transportation thing, and it was made very clear and insistent in that policies that it include ATVs as well when the access to the shoulders came and the paved shoulders were done. Also in the discussions at the time that I've been on the committee of the CP, and I concur with Mayor Sweet, is that all the terms that were used, everyone's paying for it, everyone should use it. It'll take some consultation to work out the details of that, but the intent is not only that everyone will be able to access and use it, but it would maintain and be a continuous trail through the 3 municipalities, and the 3 parties did commit to that. Thank you.
Councillor Duncan, please, and then Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I know that this initiative has been going on for some time on the CP, and I've always been in support of this. I became even more enamored of this whole initiative, and I decry that this same philosophy was not at work in the county of Renfrew. Some decades ago, I think what is particularly lamentable, I took an interest in the Arnprior, Ottawa, and Parry Sound Railroad. That was the railroad facilitated by J.R. Booth. And in reading a history of that particular railroad, very early in the 20th century, it was, for a time, the busiest railroad in the nation. And cultural heritage is such a strong component of society, this society that we're living in now. But I think it's truly lamentable that that particular asset got away from public use. That would have been a corridor straight through Algonquin Park. In any event, that is now gone. With respect to this initiative, I sit on the K&P Management Advisory, and I do so as the representative from Admaster Property, through which the Kingston and Pembroke Railroad bed travels. I think that K&P Management is a good template moving forward on this. However, we're getting into a lot larger and longer facility with the CP rail, and I think absolute diligence up front in creating the management advisory committee is essential. And I think equally essential is the duty or responsibility, I think, of all of those potential users of this facility to have accommodation as the fundamental baseline principle that would enable us to have as many multiple uses as possible. Certainly, the question, I guess, that I have here, I think I understand. So the co-owners committee, there's no authority, because within each municipality there is going to be authority on what is going to be the management there, but it is perhaps suasion as opposed to any authority that would be at play in that. And then I believe I understand the management advisory committee, and the terms of reference do need to be developed for that. How would the terms of reference from 30,000 feet differ between the management advisory and the Trail Association?
Sure. The Trails Association is supposed to be more of a volunteer group looking at connecting with a bunch of different municipalities, different stakeholders, trying to coordinate and finding linkages. They wouldn't actually own any assets themselves. It's not intended, or they wouldn't be responsible for managing anything or having a budget to provide monies to anybody. So they have I see them as a completely different role, more of a coordinating role, trying to put people in the same room or into the same position to further the linking of existing trail system together, whereas the Management Advisory Committee would actually be responsible for the budget, looking at how that trail is going to be managed, maintained, and actually be responsible for that asset.
Just for me to oversimplify, it would perform a role similar to what the OPTA does for tourism, in terms of it would bring together many different uses or groups of interest and try and forge a common means of further developing the assets that are attached to it, firstly, and then secondly, if there's any marketing campaigns or any number of other initiatives that could be writ large to maybe the Trans-Canada Trails, maybe something else that's coming through. So it's more of a, I guess, an industry-wide strategic development group than centered primarily on the CP Trail. Yes, sir. Supplementary.
Just a supplementary that, and only because I think now I have a better grasp with both of those answers. So essentially, is it fair to say that the responsibility and authority over that section of CP that traverses Renfrew County is going to reside with this body, with recommendations provided by the advisory committee through the DNP committee, that's where that is exercised. And then at the higher level, where this CP corridor extends beyond the boundaries, both western and eastern of Renfrew County, again, that's going to be through suasion as opposed to authority, but likewise that input into what is going to happen with this trail may be provided by the association, again through suasion. That's what I'm understanding. I'm subject to correction if I'm way off base, but I'm wondering, is there consideration perhaps to the chair of said association to have a seat at the management advisory table?
At this point, nothing is written in stone, and I'm not being evasive. It's just what we're trying to do is take a document at a very, I hate this word, high level, and then develop it down to the operational level with recommendations. But you are quite correct in that the authority for the landmass of the CP Trail within the County of Renfrew, the responsibility for it rests with its chambers. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Thanks for clearing that up. I also wondered about the governance of this, but likening it to the OVTA makes much more sense to me. I have every confidence that through the members of this ad hoc committee as it's struck, much like our Share the Roads campaign, I suppose it'll be a Share the Trail campaign. Mr. Warden, you mentioned marketing and that sort of thing, and I think the more upfront that we are about the fact that we want it to be a multi-use trail, I think that will assuage any worries amongst some of these clubs and snowmobile clubs, ATV clubs, and then you've got your walkers and hikers, etc. But I think the more we're upfront about it, that it's a multi-use trail, the better it will be for this ad hoc committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Sweet.
Yeah, thank you. And I know Councillor Donoghue mentioned the KNP, and that's the template that we will attempt to take forward to try and put that in place. Much larger, obviously, 214 kilometers long, and I think we've found out it's one of the largest in North America as far as the acquisition is concerned. So there'll be a lot of challenges along the road. It has developed that the KNP is a multi-purpose, multi-use trail with snowmobilers, walkers, hikers and stuff, but you can appreciate people out there with dog walking, etc. If you get horses on there, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. We understand that, and somehow or other we're going to have to work our way through that. I'm under no illusion that it's going to be easy to get to that, but nonetheless, that is the intention. Again, I'll say, using the KNP as a template, which has worked very well for the last 15, 16 years or thereabouts, that we want to take that and try and blend that into the CP situation along the way. It's a different animal in the sense that there's a lot of urban environments along the CP rail, including Arnprior and Renfrew, Pembroke, Petawawa, to name but a few. And so their needs and their wants, etc., will certainly be taken into consideration. But nonetheless, the prime directive that I get is four-season, multi-purpose trail, and we will continue to move in that direction.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Bruce. When you started your presentation, you referred to the CP rail lines, the backbone of the trail strategy. So, and I do note that you do refer to the CN rail corridor as well on page 23 and 24, and point out the fact that it actually will connect us to Quebec, which is vital. I, at the present time, chair the CN acquisition committee for the municipalities of Pembroke, Western Valley, and Whitewater. My question is, how valuable is the CN rail corridor to the overall trail strategy that you're presenting?
Thank you, Ward. I think every trail opportunity is valuable, and then anyone at the length that again the CN rail, these abandoned rail corridors, we talk about it earlier on the strategy in the introduction to the rail corridor portion. These, whenever you can acquire a linear piece of property that's uninterrupted, it's absolutely crucial and vital and very important. So any time that you can acquire these, I think it's a good position to be in. And I believe the County Council actually has a resolution from, I don't know the exact date, but dating back a long time, it predates when I got here, but try to explore and acquire any abandoned rail corridors as they come up, just because of the challenge, otherwise challenge it is to acquire linear, intact pieces of land. So I see the CN line and it will have connections with the CP corridor as well, that they're both vital and both very important to trails in the county.
Thank you. And Chair, you would like to make a recommendation on the motion, I'm assuming? And the motion at the tail end of the presentation, which said County Council will implement the trails development strategy.
Yes, I'll make that recommendation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Isn't that part of my DEP report?
I think it is.
I think it is. Do you want me to do it now, or do you want to do it?
Yeah, all right, we'll save it till later.
Till later?
I'm sorry.
I
actually wrote it down, that's why I'm so proud of myself.
Just one thing, if I could, we just got today that Paco Cameron signed off on the memorandum of understanding and the co-owners agreement today. So it is complete from Malabon all the way to Smith Falls. All the partners have signed up, or signed off.
Good, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Howard. A great document, a strategy that we can use going forward. And I'm glad to see that the Stantec document, which we've waited to implement because of the CP acquisition, is now going to be useful. So thank you very much. And just before we break for a couple of minutes, Councillor Packett, I believe you have 3 guests in the audience. Could you introduce them, please?
Thank you very much, Lord Newman. These three ladies from my staff are the ones that keep me in mind. And we have our CAO, Ms. Lindsay Parks, with us this morning, and our Deputy Clerk, Ms. Angela Young, and our our Executive Administrator, Mandy Cannon. I'd like to introduce them all to County Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have your driver, your dresser, and your appointment keeper. Good, good. I get to send those job descriptions on if you don't want.
And all combined to tell me what to do.
Perfect. Thank you. With that, we'd like to adjourn County Council at this point and step down to the Hard Rock Cafe to meet with Chief White Duck and the Algonquins of Wauknigon First Nation Council. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and I guess we'll seat ourselves in a second. I'll just first of all, of course, you know Jim Hutton and Chief White Duck, and he'll introduce his staff and council members and give you a little more information on them in a few seconds. Thank you very much for being here today. This is a very historic day for us to take the opportunity to formalize our relationship with the Algonquins of Wauknigon First Nation. It's a relationship that has grown on its own. It's been grown on good intentions, but now it's time for us to take a further step of making sure that we fully understand it, that we embrace it, and that we grow it in a more focused manner. We're extremely fortunate that Chief White Duck and his council took a leadership role with us to develop this. We've had a great number of conversations, and I think back to when we met in Calabogie with Minister Zimmer to discuss the opportunity of Calabogie Peaks and just to talk in broader detail about what our relationship could look like. And then since then, Chief White Duck has spoken to me a number of times, and this is how we've evolved to where we are today. So we're extremely fortunate. They've had the patience while we figured out how we wanted to move forward, that when we were ready, the chief and council and his community were ready to embrace us. And so with that, Chief White Duck.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here along with members of council and some staff members. I'll introduce them. For council, we have Councillor Jerry LaValle, here. Councillor Jim Maness, Councillor Cliff Maness, Councillor Dan Kohoko, Councillor Sheridan Sarrazin. And for staff, we have Vicki Tuax, as our Executive Director of Operations, Christine Hickey, Manager of Economic Development. Also from the Academic Department is Lisa Maness and Amanda Tuax. We're here to be part of the signing ceremony. And to kind of, I guess, reflect on what Peter's saying is we've been meeting over different issues for quite a while. And I met with Peter a couple times with the intention of trying to work towards a more formal relationship. So even though we're not part of the county, like we're pretty well situated in the middle of the county, and a lot of the county activities happen in county and the territory, Algonquin territory, and we thought it would be of some, I guess, assistance or cooperation to have some kind of formal relationship or start developing one. And hopefully we come up with some situations where it's a win-win for ourselves as well as the townships and the county overall in different areas. So we think this MOU starts to look at some of the areas of common interest. So we're kind of focusing on, say, business development, economic development, training opportunities, skills development, and things like that as a beginning. But there probably eventually will be other areas of interest outside of, let's say, economic development training. And hopefully that relationship will grow because we're all neighbors, and I think it's in our benefit to work together for the benefit of our constituents and our citizens. So I'm very happy to be here, along with council and staff, to be a part of this, I guess, historic moment where there's an actual formal relationship with the county. So thank you for the invitation and for joining us in this ceremony. Watch.
So the intent will be that these two larger documents will be framed and we'll hang them in our chambers, and Chief White Duck and Council can hang them in their community in a position of prominence as well. So with that, if... So again, I have to express my appreciation to Chief and Council. We've been extremely fortunate to have such a good relationship over the years, and this is just one more step in developing that relationship. And I know, you know, members of Council, we met on several occasions for different items over the years, and it's always been a real pleasure to deal with you and your staff and with Chief Kirby. And I have a tough time with his title, just as I think he has with my title, because we text each other and talk on the phone and meet at gas stations and chat on a regular basis. So it's interesting, but it's been quite a good, positive, solid relationship, and I can't stress how excited I am by this opportunity on behalf of the County of Renfrew and our community to embrace more fully our relationship with the Algonquins of Pikwakanagan First Nation. It's a very important relationship, and it's growing on its own, but now it needs further tending to ensure it grows properly and to the benefit of both communities and the one community, because we are in essence one community in a lot of instances. So with that, Chief, do you have any concluding remarks?
Yes, I think, as I mentioned before, it was my intention on behalf of the First Nation to try to develop a more formal relationship, try to, as we do in other areas and with other groups and other businesses, try to create more economic development, training, education opportunities for members, so that we can hopefully improve and foster development for our children, their children, and try to continue that process and to try to keep up with the world, I guess, if you want to put it that way, because technology is really growing really quickly, and I think we have to try to keep up with it and not get left behind. So that's kind of a broader overall vision, I guess, of an objective that we think this will help move that along. And again, very happy to be here and very happy to have signed the MOU with the county and all of yourselves. And hopefully we can move to, let's say, implement it, not wait too long and not let it sit too long, and take some steps to start that process and I guess get things happening. Signing it is one thing, but to meet the objectives, and we have to start working and planning and putting together a working group and looking at a work plan and action plan and see where we can fit into things and vice versa.
Thank you, Annette. And I don't know how it is in your shop, but Jim runs the show, so I'll ask him to speak, and then we'll get Vicky to speak as well. Jim?
Certainly. I thank you, Mr. Warden, our guest from the Algonquins of Pequawknagon First Nation. This is certainly an exciting day. Credit to your council, Chief White Duck, and to our warden and our council. It's quite an honor to have this document in front of me and be able to sign it on behalf of the County of Renfrew. Glad to see your staff here in economic development. Paul Morrow is responsible for economic development. We certainly want to cooperate as much as we can with you through our Enterprise Center, through our Economic Development Division, a number of projects in the county that are exciting. So I think this is certainly an historic day, and I'm looking forward to our staff cooperating with your staff and implementing this plan, Chief White Duck. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess echoing what everyone else said, I mean, we look forward to starting the working group. We have an excellent team of economic development, and I think they've made a lot of contacts within the county too, so this just adds to a lot of the work that we're already doing. So yeah, it is an exciting day for us. Thank you.
And now we'll have these framed up, and we'll present them in a few moments informally upstairs. But everybody is invited to join us for lunch, and we have a surprise upstairs after lunch as well. So we're going to lunch in a few minutes, and then we have a cake for lunch as well. So thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, please be seated. With your permission, I would like to move development property up on the agenda because Councillor Sweet informs me he has something significant going on in his life right now. He's speaking. Councillor Sweet.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Warden. Members of County Council, we, your Development and Property Committee, wish to report and recommend as follows. Under information items, the Planning Division Activity Tracker, which can be found on page 144. Item number 2 is starter company. You can see some of the successful starter companies and some of the initiatives that you see there. And as always, this starter company has been exceptionally well received with young minds putting in exposure to business, etc. There was a meeting with Alistair Baird with the Investment Funding and Cooperation or Coordination Branch, and in particular the EODF, Eastern Ontario Development Fund, the RED program has been folded into that particular initiative. We were very critical of this particular scenario, the RED program, and the EODF fund is a bit of an issue in the sense that some of the criteria in order to qualify was so high that it became almost non-existent here in the county of Renfrew. A minimum of 10 extra jobs, for example, were required to satisfy that. We made presentations to Brad Duguid, the Minister, with regards to that. The criteria, the threshold was way too high. Ontario Provincial Police Facility, you can find the update on that, which can be found on page 145. Smart growth for our communities. This is amendments to the development charges that affect a few of us, but not all 17 members, but nonetheless it's a situation there. And you see Charles Cheam has been where are we here now? Yeah, okay. Trailhead 2016, page 147. Ontario Trails Council, there's a conference going on, or get together in California on June the 19th and 21st. You can find that on page 147. Resolutions, the County of Renfrew Trail Strategy, resolution number DPCC 160534. Move by the chair, second by committee, that County Council approves the County of Renfrew Trails Strategy as presented and amended to include ATVs. I think that's a general thrust that we received here from members of the County Council, all of which is respectfully submitted by myself as chair, committee members Don Caston, Ewan Gibson, McKay, Miller, and Beckett.
Thank you. Comments, questions, concerns from all members of council about item number 1? Item 2, Councillor Robinson, please.
Just a question, if we can find out where these 6 companies are located.
I need to pass it over to Paul.
Mr. Moore?
Warden, through you to Councillor Robinson. I'll have to check with our economic development folks on that. Thank you.
I sat with them at dinner, and I have the understanding that 2 of them are located in the Barry's Bay, Willow area, and the rest are clustered in your municipality, Wiltshire Valley, and Pembroke, but that's only it. And one's in Golden Lake as well. So that's the memory I have of that dinner. But Paul will be more accurate. Item number 3, please. Item number 4. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious, it seems like it was caught everybody off guard, the dissolution of the RED program, the Rural Economic Development Program. And I'm wondering if there was any rationale was presented as to the sudden cessation of that program.
Mr. Morrow, please.
Thank you, Warden. Through you to Councillor Donahue. Our recollection of it is, and essentially through a news release that we received from the province, is that they were revisiting the RED program to roll it into the Eastern Ontario Development Fund program, and that's the information we have received. I can, however, speak to Alistair and find more information, but apparently as part of a review, they were rolling it into other programs.
Supplementary?
Yeah, just a supplementary, and I'll have to confess that I'm not thoroughly familiar with this, but there was a resolution across our local municipalities table that we endorsed, I think from Perth or somewhere in Leeds and Renfrew, where apparently where it's being rolled into is no longer going to be available to municipalities to access. It is going to be private industry and commercial enterprises only.
Mr. Morrow?
Thank you, Warden. Through you to Councillor Donahue. That's something I will have to confirm, and I will get those details. And Warden, if I may, what I will do is I will get the details and send them out to the council CAO, if that's appropriate.
Yes, thank you. The motion you may have received would have been from North Dundas. They passed a motion in early May. I'm sorry, the end of March, or the end of April. And it circulated around, the Warden's Caucus endorsed it. And that was the information in the motion, and the supporting information was that it was going to be rolled into the Eastern Ontario Development Fund. I sent a letter to Minister Leal. We got something back from him that, if I remember it correctly, says we're still working it through. It was underutilized, and once we know more details, we'll communicate with you. So as soon as I get more information, I'll pass it out as well. It didn't sound like there was any preordained ideas about how it was going to be utilized once it rolled into the new program, but we don't know what the new program looks like. And they also indicated that there was a line in the budget, and they quoted the line in the budget. I don't recall seeing it in the budget, but I can't comment beyond that. Item number 4. Item 5. Item 6. Item 7, the resolution. The report as a whole. Mover, please. You've heard the motion. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? None. It's carried. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Warden.
Now, with your indulgence, we'll continue the agenda with finance and admin, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I'm sure everybody wants me to speak really fast today. So, members of the County Council, we, your Finance and Admin Committee, wish to report and recommend as follows. Number 1 is our pay. Number 2, the Treasurer's report. Mr. Kutchke, second to last. Number 3 are laptops. If you leave them after the June session of County Council, they'll go through their maintenance with our IT department, and then you can pick them back up. Number 4 is the ORN Bell Canada Internet connection migrations on those 5 properties. Number 5, congratulations to these staff members that completed their AMCTO Executive Diploma in Municipal Management Program. Number 6 is the 12th Annual Wardens Golf Tournament, Friday, September the 9th. And the charity of choice this year is the Big Brothers Big Sisters of Renfrew County for anti-bullying. Number 7 is a bit of an update on the Ontario Retirement Pension Plan. Number 8 is the new Ontario Health and Safety Act, the noise protection legislation. Number 9 is the update on our group insurance, and there's quite a bit of background there for you. Number 10, record keeping to the Privacy Act. Number 11 is our local municipality staff salary remuneration and council remuneration compensation surveys. Thanks for all those that participated in that. Number 12, some media releases that Mr. Barber has done. Number 13, some information about accessibility. 14, the Parks Ontario funding, sort of an exciting announcement for some heritage designations. Number 15, at this point, I'm going to turn the report over to Mr. Hutton so that he can give you some background on the 3 resolutions in front of you.
Thank you very much, Chair, members of the County Council. Thank you, Rose. I'm going to try to do this from my seat. I have this presentation, which is an overview, and then I'll take us back to the report, which is on page 10. Okay. In terms of this report itself, the recent retirements of a couple of our senior management required me to review the restructuring options for our senior leadership team. I presented a proposal on May 17, 2016 to the Finance and Administration Committee. I bring this forward today to County Council. The restructuring proposal that I brought forward, and this again is an executive summary, number 1 would remove the acting CAO role and the deputy clerk role from the present treasurer, deputy clerk, acting CAO position. So that's Jim Kutsky's position. Number 2, create a new position, director of finance / treasurer, that would include the responsibilities of treasurer and the main responsibilities of the financial services officer, which is the existing position occupied by Jeff Floss. In terms of number 3, I'd like to maintain the FSO position as a vacant position for 1 year to allow me and the Director of Finance Treasurer to review the workload issues that may be related to that proposal. Number 4, as part of the succession planning, appoint Jeff Foss as Director of Finance Treasurer and Treasurer of the County of Renfrew. Number 5, create a new position of Executive Assistant Deputy Clerk that would include existing responsibilities of the Executive Assistant and the Deputy Clerk role. That's Rose Gruntz's role. So the 2 items that will be moving away from the Treasurer, Deputy Clerk, Acting CAO, or the Deputy Clerk function will go to the Executive Assistant position, and the Acting CAO role, although I don't have it in this presentation, I'm bringing it forward next month, is a proposal to rotate that amongst my senior leadership team as part of my effort in succession planning. Number 6, as part of the succession planning, appoint Rose Gruntz as Executive Assistant Deputy Clerk. Number 7, in June, bring forward an amendment to the acting CAO bylaw. So that's the executive summary. If you can just keep that in mind. Now I will refer you back. Hold off on questions for a minute. I'll refer you back to page 10 of the report. So I'll read through the resolutions, I think, Chair, if I may.
Please do.
Resolution number FACC 1605-57. Glasses. The county approved the job description and job fact sheet for the Director of Finance Treasurer position effective July 1st, 2016 at group 17, $124,701 to $146,707. And further, the revised employment bylaw number 1 be passed at the June session of the County Council.
That job description is found on page 71. Resolution number FACC 160558, that the County Council approve that Mr. Jeff Foss be appointed as Treasurer of the County of Renfrew and as Director of Finance Treasurer as of July 1st, 2016, at Group 17 on the wage grid, and that the necessary bylaws be passed at the June session of County Council. Resolution number FACC 160559, the County Council approved the job description and job fact sheet for Executive Assistant / Deputy Clerk for the County of Renfrew, effective July 1st, 2016, at Group 7, 62987 to 74104, and further that a revised employment file number 1 be passed at the June session of County Council. The business case related to that is on page 82, and the job description is on page 84. Finally, resolution number FACC 160560, the County Council approved that Mrs. Rosalind Grunts be appointed as the Deputy Clerk for the County of Renfrew, effective July 1st, 2016, and further that the necessary bylaws be passed at the June session of County Council. In terms of background, as I stated, Mr. Kutchke will be leaving the position as a Treasurer, Deputy Clerk, Acting CAO at the end of June. In anticipation of this, I need to make several changes. In terms of the Treasurer position, Jeff Foss has been an active participant in our succession planning process for a number of years. He's completed a number of training modules in terms of this position. He's well qualified for the position and has proposed that he be appointed Treasurer of the County of Renfrew. The Deputy Clerk and Acting CAO role, as I mentioned, will not be part of Mr. Foss's role. So Jeff and I have discussed this, as I have with Mr. Kutchke as well. And we feel that there's, by taking away a couple of the functions, and adding the finance function, that it balances out. But we'd still like a year to look at that and make sure that we don't have any workload issues with that, any redundancy issues, and any succession planning issues that we'll have to look at the next 6 or 7 years down the road. The revised job description is there. In terms of the Deputy Clerk, I explained that Rose has also been part of the succession planning program, has expressed an interest in it. She's completed a lot of training for the Deputy Clerk function over the last probably 5-6 years, and actually has been allowing her as Jim to fulfill some of the Deputy Clerk functions. Rose looks at minutes, scheduling, things like that. So it's been a movement towards that position, and recommending that will occur. In terms of the business case, I'll refer you to page 69 and see if I missed anything. Under the discussion on page 69, so the financial service, the treasurer will be responsible for the finance department, will be responsible for the PA and the IT, similar to what Jim in that position is right now, and will not be responsible for the acting CAO and deputy clerk. We are very aware, and Jeff feels that there's redundancy with his existing staff. From when Jeff is away or on holidays, we've also talked to our auditors about that, and they have no issue with the way we're headed. We would like 1 year to review that and make sure that we're functioning the way we should. In terms of the financial considerations at the bottom of that page, you will see that the annualized savings is $136,000, $136,913. That's the salary range of 87 to 103 plus the benefits for that position. Normally we don't include the benefits in there, but as the position is being vacant, it actually is a savings in this case, unless of course we refill it or refill it with some modified position down the road. Jeff and I are quite confident that this will work out. That won't happen, but I'd still like to have a chance to review that with Jeff after the year. In terms of the business case for the executive assistant / deputy clerk role, that is found on page 82. I think I have covered everything there as well. I'd also like to see that position reviewed in 1 year, and we did discuss that at Finance and Admin Committee. That's been included in the business case. The reclassification would be from on page 83, financial considerations, from Group 5, 52,491 to 61,753 to a Group 7, 62,987 to 74,104, effective July 1st, 2016. This represents a yearly cost of just over $12,000. So I think, as I said, the job descriptions are there. I'll probably stop there if I may at this point, Chair, and turn it back to you.
Thank you. We'll break with normal practice at this point just to discuss this section. Are there any questions that you wish to ask Mr. Hutton? Councillor Stack.
Yeah,
just, excuse me, one, probably I think I know the answer, but just for clarification, I certainly will support and agree with it. There are two good choices in the direction. But the actual rotation of the acting CAO would include Jeff as the Director of Finance and Treasurer.
Eventually that would, yes,
Yeah.
yes, Chair.
Okay, seeing no further questions, then we'll resume the report. Councillor Murphy, please.
Thank you. Thanks for that recap, Jim. Number 16 is a resolution with regards to our chamber projector and the screen. Just as a bit of background, this came to Finance and Admin in April. We asked staff for much more information. They came back with this recommendation. You can see the different options that we were given. So I will read resolution number FACC 16-05-62, moved by the chair, seconded by committee, that County Council approved the purchase of a replacement projector, ceiling mount, video switch and electric projector screen for the County Council chambers from Bus Office Equipment at a cost of $17,667.55, including HST, and that the funds be financed from the provision for unallocated funds. And moving on to number 17, bylaws. Claybank Bridge, this is for the borrowing of the rehabilitation of Claybank. Resolution number FACC-16-05-63, moved by the chair, seconded by committee, that a bylaw to authorize certain capital works Claybank Bridge rehabilitation of the Corporation of the County of Renfrew to authorize the submission of an application to the Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation, OILC, for financing such capital works, to authorize temporary borrowing from OILC to meet expenditures in connection with such works, and to authorize long-term borrowing from the OILC for such works through the issue of debentures be adopted at this session of County Council. And number 8 is a housekeeping issue. There's a bit of background there. Resolution number FACC-16-05-65, moved by the chair, seconded by committee. The County Council approved a revised employment bylaw number 1, incorporating the capital projects coordinator in Group 7, $62,987 to $74,104 of the staff classifications and salary range grid, all of which is respectfully submitted by myself as chair and committee members Donahue, Emo, Love, Miller, Reinwald, Sweet, and Business. Thank you, Mr. Warden.
Thank you. Item comments, questions, concerns from members of council. Item number 1. Item 2. Item 3. 4. Item 5, again, congratulations to staff. This has been a very successful program. It provides a rather detailed and informative outline and framework for municipal administration. So we're very appreciative of them giving their time to upgrade and to gain this knowledge. Item number 6 is the annual golf tournament. I hope as many of you as possible can make it. Thank you. It's two great charities and rather current. I think when you take a look at what's gone on in the past few years in terms of bullying and then supporting our youth in the community so that they're not feeling alienated or excluded. Item number 7. Item 8. Item 9. Item 10. Item 11, always much waited for. Item 12. Item 13. 14. 15. 16. 17. And item 18. Report as a whole. Mover, please.
So moved.
You've heard the report and the motion. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? None is carried. Thank you, council. And we'll move to operations. And I believe the deputy chair, Councillor Prince.
Yeah, in for another long one, so sit back and enjoy. Members of County Council, we, your Operations Committee, wish to report and recommend as following. Item 1 is information under the operations. Computer goes faster than I do. Item 2, monthly treasurer's report. Item 3, monthly project status report. Item 4, Highway 28 construction. That's a letter from Tomlinson Group. Item 5, Infrastructure for Jobs and Prosperity Act for 2015. Item 6, Budget 2016 Infrastructure Investment Plan. Item 7, Fire Communications System Study. And bylaws. Item 8, 2016 Capital Works Program Expansion. Resolution number OPCC 16-04-32, moved by chair, seconded by committee. Contracts for the rehabilitation of the following roads be extended. Contract PWO 2016-10 for scratch coat paving of County Road 514 to be extended by 2.6 kilometers. Contract PWC 2016-02 rehabilitation of County Road 58 to be extended by 3 kilometers. Contract PWC 2016-04 rehabilitation of County Road 4 to be extended by 3.1 kilometers. Item 9, PWC 2016-17 rehabilitation of County Structure B120 Playback Bridge. Resolution number OPCC 1605-45, moved by chair, seconded by committee. The contract PWC 2016-17 submitted by Green League Limited, Carleton Place, Ontario. The rehabilitation of County Structure B120 Playback Bridge in the amount of $3,063,122.33 plus HST be approved, and the bylaw to authorize execution of the contract be passed. Item 10, PWC 2015-16 updated proposal for engineering services for Claybank Bridge. Resolution number OPCC 16-0546, moved by chair, seconded by committee, that an amended professional services agreement be signed with WSP in the amount of $340,592.50 plus HST for detailed design and contract administration services for the rehabilitation of county structure P120 Claybank Bridge, and that a final not be authorized for execution of the contract. Item 11, PWC 2016-06 rehabilitation of County Road 30. Resolution OPCC 16-05-47, moved by chair, seconded by committee, that contract PWC 2016-06 submitted by Smith's Construction of Christian Miller Group Incorporated, Arnprior, Ontario, for the rehabilitation of County Road 30, Lake Dory Road, in the amount of $761,758.55. which is the tendered contract amount of $544,744.30, and the contract extension amount of $207,014.25 plus HST be approved, and the bylaw to authorize execution of the contract be passed. Resolution number OPCC 16-0548 for the rehabilitation of County Road 40, moved by chair, seconded by committee. That contract, PWC 2016-07, submitted by Greenwood Paving, Pembroke Limited, Pembroke, Ontario, for the rehabilitation of County Road 40, Greenwood Road, in the amount of $514,110.60. Tendered contract amount of $281,453.50, and contract extension amount of $235,000. $235,657.10 plus HST be approved. The bylaw to authorize execution of the contract be passed. You see that I'm not used to those big numbers in the township. Item 13, rehabilitation of County Road 8, Main Street, resolution under OPCC 16-05-49, moved by chair, seconded by committee. The contract PWC 2016-08, submitted by Smith's Construction, a division of the Miller Group Incorporated, Renfrew, Ontario, for rehabilitation of County Road 8, Main Street, and the amount of $180,223.50. plus HST be approved and the bylaw to authorize execution of the contract be passed. All which is respectfully submitted by committee members Aaron, Clark, Bruns, Kingsbury, Murphy, and Peckett, and I do not know if Mr. Boland wants to comment on the extensions to those two contracts.
Mr. Boland, please.
Thank you, Warden, through you to members of council. Once again, the last round of tenders proved to be very advantageous to the county in terms of pricing, and thus the recommendations on the two tenders, County Road 30 and County Road 40, that they be extended to take advantage of those excellent prices. And it also provides us opportunity to catch up a little bit in terms of the outstanding work that sits within our 10-year capital forecast. So a good news story all around, I think.
Thank you. Comments, questions, concerns from members of council on item number 1, item 2, item 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Councillor. Okay, item 9, item 10, item 11. Yes, Councillor Doncaster.
Thank you, Warden. I guess there was probably certainly a lot more detailed information in the committee. I'm just, and I understand that the tender prices were good. My concern is the fact that we looked at a work plan, we looked at the budget, we approved the capital budget. This one is not just taking advantage of the room that the favorable tenders come back with, but it's actually adding significant amounts on to both item number 11 and item number 12. And it just seems like a little bit of project scope creep or whatever you want to call it. But I think I would be prepared to support that. I mean, if it was taking advantage of the tender process and going up to the budget that we approved, but this is adding significant amounts of capital to the budget expense.
Thank you, Mr. Boland.
Thank you, Warden, through you to Councillor Doncaster. No question the scope of the project has changed and has expanded considerably on both of those projects. We do have language within our contract documents that allow County Council to expand those contracts or reduce them if the prices were lower or higher rather. So that is permitted within our contracts and within our procurement policy language. It does allow us as well to catch up on some of the future work or advance some of the future work that's within our 10-year capital forecast, thereby avoiding having to do that in the future. So I think there's a benefit to going forward with it, and plus the recommendations.
Thank you. Councillor Stack.
The work being funded by the dollars from the reduction in quotes, that's correct. So what's going through my mind is then, Jim, when we do our long-term financial review annually, we should see that reflected in the long-term financial plan.
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. That was one thing I was going to ask you to address, but that's absolutely correct. Councillor Stack.
Okay, item number 12, please. Councillor Love, please.
Just a question. The project is
extended? Was the active transportation component extended as well?
Through you, Mr. Warden, to Councillor Love, yes, the active transportation component is extended as well.
Okay, thank you. Item 13. Report of the whole. Mover, please. Thank you. You've heard the report and the motion. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? None. It's carried. Thank you. And we'll move to the Health Committee. And Councillor Doncaster, please.
Thank you. Your Health Committee wish to report represent the following. Item number 1, the resident population for both the Manor and the Lodge for April. Item number 2, County Renfrew Paramedic Service Deployment Plan and the service delivery statement. The committee receives the draft report for review. Was recommended to the County Council. Item number 3, Acting Deputy Chief Paramedic Services. The appointment for David Libby for a 6-month term. Item number 4, Hype for Hospice, fundraising campaign that was very successful, that the paramedic service entered a team in and participated. Item number 5, Exercise Rocking Bear, which the paramedic service participated in with Garrison Panola. And item number 6, Exercise Flooring. The paramedic service once again partnered with Garrison Panola, a number of units, and participated in this exercise. And item number 7, in November of 2016, there will be a certification review of the Renfrew County Paramedic Service, similar to the certification that we see with our long-term care homes. The service will be going through that. Item number 8, the ONASIS general meeting that Ms. Sheedy and Chair Wisniewski-Moore attended. Any comments there? Item number 9, the fire safety in Renfrew Lodge. There was an inspection, and it was a very favorable inspection. There were no violations noted. And I guess of note, they also did a vulnerable occupancy fire drill, and you can see the timelines that staff are regulated to follow to get either patients out of a room that has a fire or out of a section of the building, and the results of the drill were significantly better than what the requirements are, which compliments to the staff for sure. Item number 10, the annual Renfrew Lodge Volunteer Recognition Dinner that I believe Mr. Hutton and Gordon Emo attended. Item number 11, the Renfrew Lodge Foundation updates on fundraisers and specifically the Paint Night fundraiser that was held. Item number 12, the big bike ride for the Heart Stroke Foundation that I believe Gordon Emo participated in. Item number 13, Motion Manor fundraising, foundation fundraiser, Yomet Park. Item, all of which is respectfully submitted by Chair Wisniewski-Moore, many members, myself, Gordon Emo, Councilor Kingsford, Councilor Love, Councilor Robinson, and Councilor Stein.
Thank you very much. Comments, questions, concerns from members of council on item number 1, item 2, 3. I'm sorry, question? I missed that. Councilor Packett, item 3.
Thank you, Chair. What am I missing in that only having the acting deputy chief for 6 months to replace the deputy chief for 2 years? What am I missing?
I'll ask acting chief to, deputy chief Leahy to respond and correct me if I'm wrong. The impression is that the plan is there's a series of rotations through people that have been identified through the continuous process of trying to find the next management and leadership group, succession planning, and there will be a rotation of them through the period, or through the position for a period of 6 months each as a means of advancing their learning. Did I miss anything wrong with that? That's
correct.
Thank you. He wrote that down for me, thanks. Item number 4, please. Item number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I spoke at a committee about this, but this is a really super event, and I hope everybody at some point during their term on council has an opportunity to attend. The volunteers really enjoy having us there so they can tell you what's going on, and one of the really neat parts of it, I guess it's a tradition now, it's been a number of years, is that members of council that are present get to hand out the roses as the people are called out. They appreciate the roses and the handshake and the conversation before and after. So I hope everybody takes the opportunity in the next few years to attend that. Item number 11. Item 12. Again, both your manager staff really stepped up. It was a very enjoyable afternoon, paddling around Renfrew and then just chatting before the event and after the event with them. So we really appreciate their efforts. Item number 13. I wouldn't be undertaking this, but I hope somebody else will. I'm not flexible.
Scotty, he was going to do it.
Oh, perfect. He's just the guy I would nominate. Right, Gary? Be careful, you may have something in.
No great free balls.
Down and up. The report as a whole. Can I have submission, please, on the report?
So moved.
Thank you. You've heard the report and the motion. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None is carried. Thank you. And we'll move to social services.
We, Social Service Committee, wish to report and recommend as follows. Information number 1, the Ontario caseload, it's up by 2.33% or 29 caseloads this time last year. Item number 2, child care statistics. Notice difference in an increase again from 328 to up to 328 from 309 last year. Families and children up 21 from last year. On the 2015-16 immigration coordinated staff comparisons, there you can see from this time last year they're up by 15 for the total active files, up 11 received resource fund. Item 3, 2015-2016 Renfrew County Social Housing Registry Waitlist Statistics Comparison. If you look at the new eligible applicants on the wait list, this year to last year, it's up 3. Total number of eligible applicants on the wait list is at 945, up 32 from last year. And the eligible SPP on the wait list is up 10 from last year, 41. Item number 4, Renfrew County Housing Corporation annual dinner meeting. That'll be held on Thursday, June 16th at 9 a.m. at Council Chambers. Item 5, the Ontario Renovation Program. Item 6, Children's Universe Daycare in Renfrew. So they requested a fee subsidy agreement with the county of Renfrew. Item 7, bylaws. The bylaw to execute a municipal contribution agreement with Federal Housing Corporation, Investment in Affordable Housing for Ontario Program, 2014 Essential Rental Housing Component. So resolution number SSCC 1603-18, moved by chair, second by committee. The bylaw will pass authorizing the county of Renfrew to execute a municipal contribution agreement with Federal Housing Corporation under the rental housing component of the investment in affordable housing for an Ontario program 2014 extension. And item number 8, a bylaw to amend number 5614 fee subsidy Southern Recreation Program. Resolution number SSCC 160535. Moved by chair, second by committee. Bylaw 56-14 authorizing the County of Renfrew to enter into a recreation agreement with providers of recreation programs to be amended to include the Township of Madawaska Valley, who will be providing the children's recreation program. Item number 9, bylaw to provide for tax relief, Pellwell Housing Corporation, and that's on pages 192 to 195. Resolution number SSCC 160536. Moved by chair, second by committee. That a bylaw be passed to provide for tax relief for the new 14 units of seniors affordable housing located at 1145 Victoria Street, Pellwell, Ontario, from the multi-residential taxation to residential taxation as required under the Investment in Affordable Housing for Ontario 2014 Extension Program Guidelines for the duration of the program. All of which is respectfully submitted by myself, John Reynolds, Chair, and committee members Emo, Farner, Gibson, Brett, McKay, Robinson, and Stack.
Thank you. Comments, questions, concerns from members of council on item number 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, item 5. Sorry, Councilor Donahue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for clarity, is it a requirement that a title search be done for eligibility for this program, i.e. Of the 48, is it simply the 19 that potentially could receive, or are these just questionable title?
At random, I'm going to pick somebody, so I'll pick Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Warden, and through you to County Council. We do title searches on those applications that have been approved. What we found in the past, not everybody owns their property, so it's important that we protect the corporation of the county.
Thank you. I should add to the committee, we informed that we would be taking this information about the number of applicants versus the number of applications sent to the law firm that potentially could be approved back to the Eastern Ontario Warden's Caucus and try to get an aggregate number for Eastern Ontario. We suspect as a committee that the numbers across Eastern Ontario are quite large in comparison to those being served. We know that the social housing report that was completed by the Warden's Caucus in 2013 identified that there's a greater than provincial average percentage of people own their homes in the county of Renfrew, and they were older stock as well. So we suspect that that will give us some leverage in going forward to ask for more funds to be attributed to Eastern Ontario for the Ontario MFH program. So we have tracked that trend, we think, through just paying attention to the numbers over the last couple of years, but we're going to try and get a bigger number and then ask for more funds for the whole program. Item number 6, item 7, item 8, and item 9. Any questions on the report as a whole? Seeing none, mover?
So moved.
Thank you, sir. You've heard the report and the recommendation and the motion. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? None is carried. Thank you. I would like to report I'm doing this solely on my own up here today. Mr. Houghton, do we have any correspondence?
You caught me that time, Peter. The correspondence has been forwarded to the appropriate committee. Thank you, Mr. Ward.
Thank you very much. For the very first time my checklist program has worked, I check everything off of it when I know it's up to one spot, so I'm very proud of myself today. And we have bylaws, I believe. Councilor Robinson, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Carr, the bylaws listed on item 11 and attached here to the Schedule A on the County Council agenda dated May 25th, 2016
you, Council. You've heard the motion discussion. I would note that your agenda makes note of item M, but we've already passed that, so it's been removed from this motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None is carried. Thank you. Notice of motions. Members' written motions. New business. Councillor Murphy, then staff, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. It's Eganville's 125th anniversary this year, so I've left you a brochure on your desk. If you'd like more, I've got some. And I would formally like to invite all of you to come out. We have two very big weekends, one Canada Day weekend and one homecoming weekend. They're in the brochure. And Mr. Warden, I'd love it if you would come for the burying of our time capsule. And speaking of the Warden, I would just like to let Council know that I will be letting my name stand for Warden for the 2017 year. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm unsure of the date for the Eganville Day.
It is Monday, August the 1st.
Oh, okay. Thanks. All right, thank you. And Councillor Stapp, please.
Thank you. Two things. There's one, I want to apologize to Councillor from Ransom Hills. We were at the committee meeting last week, and he came with a shirt and tie on, and we were all in shirts. And I said, well, you know, it's summertime now, right? I forgot to distinguish for him committee meetings and councils, so he got caught today as the only one not wearing a tie. It was my fault, so I didn't need it. Thank you. I also intend to let my name stand for Warden this year, and I wanted to announce today, and I did leave a note on my fellow councilor's desk. I'd like to take a minute just to review it a bit with you. And it basically says in 6 months we will be choosing a warden for 2017, and it is with renewed resolve that I put my name forward for this important position. Last year marked the first time in recent history that the county councillors were asked to choose between two capable individuals. It's a close race, and while unsuccessful, the support I received was gratifying and very much appreciated. Beginning today, I ask you again to consider choosing me as your warden. More than ever, Renfrew County needs a strong, knowledgeable leader who will engage all of the county council in all aspects of the county business. We are 17 strong, and that's my message. I want to send to each and every one of you. Together, 17 county councillors oversee and manage somewhere around $130+ million and employ somewhere around 900 men and women to serve a population of the largest county in the province of 107,000. This is a massive corporation, and all have an obligation to ensure it runs efficiently and effectively. Our staff deserve to have a council that is knowledgeable in all the issues, allowing for informed decision-making and governance. I spoke last December of my intention to ask council to consider the merits of beginning a detailed organizational review. In light of two recent retirements and the information that Jim provided today, I believe a detailed review of the whole organization is even more vital to the successful implementation of the county's long-term strategic plan. I have every confidence in our CAO's ability to lead us through such a review, and would suggest it include council as well. We all want to leave these chambers when our terms conclude with the knowledge that we all played a role in positioning Renfrew County for the future. I'm still listening. As I campaigned for warden last year, I talked and I listened. I'm still listening. I know together we can build a strong working relationship within these chambers where we can benefit from the experience of our veteran councillors, welcoming the ideas of new members, and finding solutions together, because there is a lot of work ahead of us, including the forelating of 17, continuing to build a relationship at CNL and Garrison Petawawa, safeguarding the forestry industry, ensuring momentum for our successful acquisition of the CP rail line continues, expanding economic development efforts in tourism, commercial and industrial sectors, and creating new partnerships with the federal and provincial governments for the betterment of all Renfrew residents. We can all succeed if we work together, 17 strong. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, I would ask, is there any other new business? Seeing none. And could I have a motion to move to close, please? Councillor Love, seconded by Councillor Reinwald. Discussion. Although before we go discuss it, it's about personal matters, about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employee. So you've heard the motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None. It's carried. Thank you.
By myself, second by Councillor Farland, bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of County Renfrew at the meeting held on May 25th, 2016 be now be numbered, deemed that 3 times the past.
Thank you. Council, you've heard the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None. It's carried. And the motion to adjourn, Councillor Peckett, second by Councillor Love. All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Good night.